Welcome to the EQ Fit podcast. Our mission is to equip people to prosper in every aspect of their life. Whether you're at home or in the workplace, we explore practical ways of improving success, satisfaction, finding balance, and building enjoyable and beneficial relationships. Thank you for joining us. This series on emotional intelligence competencies and skills concludes today with the 8th competency, which is called noble goals. Before I get to this competency, let me answer a question I have received from a number of different people. Why do I use the 6 seconds model of emotional intelligence instead of something else? Because there are several out there. The answer to that is simple. As a matter of fact, when I use the word simple, that's actually the answer to that question. Ask yourself this: is it easier to learn, understand, and practice 8 new skills? Or would you prefer something that has 20 to 30 different elements that you've got to learn and try to practice? Well, most people would say 8 is easier, and I agree with that. When you add to that the 8 competencies or skills in the 6 seconds model of emotional intelligence are highly actionable, and what I mean by that is they directly impact outcomes and are relatively easy to implement. So when you think about how highly actionable they are, then you've got a skill set that is easy to learn, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to develop by practicing those skills to achieve better outcomes in both life and work. So the concept of noble goals is a vital component of emotional intelligence. And I know I say that about all of these, but there's a reason for that. There's only 8 of them. Every one of those 8 have a significant impact on our life, on our work, on our relationships, on the way we communicate, on the way we build trust, on the way that we do our work, on the way that we influence other people, and frankly, just our well-being and our mental health. So there's a lot going on with these 8. Specifically, I want to say that noble goals touches everything because it comes from this deep sense of purpose that we have, which originates in our beliefs and our values and what we consider to be the overarching sense of purpose in our lives. And that's more than just what's good for us. It's good for what is around us, the world around us. So noble goals are far beyond just something I want to accomplish in life. They are literally, what is the legacy that I want to leave? How do I want to impact my world and the world around me by using this concept that originates in my values and my beliefs? So the model, the 6 seconds model, focuses on building very constructive emotional and social functioning. Well, guess what? Noble goals is a huge part of that, because noble goals are not just about setting and achieving objectives like I talked about, but it really involves pursuing things that enhance the well-beings of others, and at the same time, it aligns with our personal values. Now, I want to share another story with you, but unlike most stories that I will share, this story, and it's a true story, is not a success story. It does, however, highlight the critical importance of noble goals in a person's life and maintaining those noble goals. A few years ago, I was working with an organization that I had helped with a major culture change. Through that work, a new senior leader was brought on board to run the operations. For a few years, everything continued to improve. Then I started to notice the first signs of burnout in this senior leader. He was struggling to find the energy and motivation and focus to accomplish his responsibilities effectively. And it sounded something like this when I asked him questions. He would say things like, "It's the same thing day after day." Now, those are not the words he used, but I'm sure you can come up with your own idea of what he said. Same thing day after day. I never get ahead. I never seem to accomplish anything. I always get distracted. I always get disrupted. I'm not getting any wins. That's the kind of language that should speak to you. If you see that in yourself or if you see that in other people, there's a chance that you're in burnout. And that's, I'm going to tell you right now, that is a very serious place to be. It's a place that you need to take seriously. And if you're there, you need to find some help to get out of that. If you see somebody else there, you need to recommend that they get some help to get out of that. And that could very well include medical or mental health professionals who are trained in helping people deal with the mental health challenges that we see are so prevalent today. Well, after I started noticing these, I immediately recommended that he seek a mental health professional to help him. And here's how he responded to me. "It's no big deal. I can handle it. I just have to push through." Does this sound like anybody you know? Unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of the men that I know, and maybe even some of the women that I know. And this isn't about gender, but it's about self-awareness. It's about, will I accept the fact that I might need help? And can I be strong enough to seek out that help? Well, I supported him the best I could, but I continued to insist that he seek a mental health professional. Well, he never did. He finally told me he no longer wanted to work with me. And this is when the downward spiral seemed to accelerate. I won't go into all the details, but the reality is that he ended up losing his job, losing his family, and losing his health. Burnout is very serious. The Microsoft Workplace study that was recently published states that 53% of leaders or managers are currently in burnout. That's the majority. That's more than half of leaders and managers. And that is not a good place for anybody to be. The purpose behind this is to really look back on the situation and what are the lessons that we can learn from this. This thing called noble goals that this person had that originated in his beliefs and values and his sense of purpose were eroded by decisions he made that led him down a destructive path. His choices shifted away from his lifelong noble goals to more immediate desires that had hugely negative consequences. And the reason I share this story with you is to bring to light the critical importance of being proactive in developing and practicing these emotional intelligence skills. There are a lot of people who still think of emotional intelligence and emotional intelligence skills and competencies as warm and fuzzy stuff. Or a lot of times I'll hear something like, "That's soft skills." You darn right it is. Soft skills are critical to success. As a matter of fact, there are study after study that point to the fact soft skills are far more important to success and satisfaction in life than hard skills or technical skills are, because they are people skills. They are personal people skills in dealing with yourself, but they're also people skills in working with, relating to, building trust with, communicating with other people. And so these are not warm and fuzzy things that have little impact. A lack of these skills can have gravely serious consequences in a person's life. And I am not overstating that. I don't know that I can even overstate that, how important these skills are to personal well being and, frankly, professional success. But if we enhance these skills, we can open pathways of success and satisfaction for a lifetime. Let's go ahead and define noble goals a little bit deeper so it's hopefully easy to understand what it is and how it can help you as a competency and as a skill. Noble goals refer to a deep-seated aspiration to make a difference in the world, guided by principles and values that transcend personal gain. This competency is about making life choices that are consistent with your ideal self. What does your ideal self look like? What does your best self look like? In daily life, noble goals may show up as choosing a career that helps people, or engaging in volunteer work, or, and probably more often, consistently making decisions that reflect a commitment to personal and ethical values. Living your life in a way that lives up to these internal beliefs and values and principles that you have. So, what are the consequences of low scores in this noble goals area? Well, individuals with low scores might have several negative outcomes. Number one, a lack of fulfillment in personal and professional life. The next one could very well be greater susceptibility to burnout. And we've already talked about how serious burnout is. And I know you're hearing it in my voice. I have seen burnout firsthand. I have been in burnout myself. I have experienced it myself. Fortunately, I had the skills to work my way out of it, and I had help. And there is nothing wrong with getting help, especially when you're in burnout, which is just a step away from more serious mental health challenges. So you might have a greater susceptibility to burnout if you have a low noble score, a noble goal score, as work activities might just seem meaningless. That's not a good place to be. If it doesn't feel like you've got something worthwhile that you're doing, it may not be the job itself. Sure, that might be a part of it, but it might be that you're in a phase of burnout that is not allowing you to see the value and the purpose of what you're doing. You might have a sense of disconnection from other people, leading to less effective personal and professional relationships. And that is kind of a cycle that feeds itself. You might have difficulty in maintaining motivation during challenging times, as there is no larger why to drive your persistence. I think that's an important one to focus on for just a second, because we all face challenging times, especially today. I mean, the challenges in our life and our world today are greater than they've ever been in the past. This goes back to what I've talked about in the past about building up your internal resources so that you can face the next challenge or take advantage of the next opportunity with speed and efficiency, so that you truly get things done in an appropriate way, an effective way. Well, guess where that drive to build those internal resources comes from? It comes from having those noble goals to rely on. It's almost like your anchor or your foundation that you can pull from and say, yes, this aligns with my greater purpose. It aligns with my overarching sense of purpose that I want to live my life by. It is the standard that I hold my decisions up to. That helps us build those internal resources that we can then be ready for the next challenge or for the next opportunity. How can we identify if somebody, maybe ourselves, maybe somebody else, has a low noble goal score? Here's what that might look like. Feeling that work or daily activities are just going through the motions without a deeper purpose. Or rarely considering how personal actions affect the broader community or environment. That's a big one. I have worked with several people in the last few years who have very low self-awareness, and they don't understand how they're showing up for other people. And one of the elements in that could very well be, and frankly, I know from the assessments I've done on these people, is low noble goals. They don't have a good compass to make sure that they're focused on their true north, which is going to help them in every aspect of their lives. And that then impacts the people around them negatively when they don't have a good compass and they don't understand how they're showing up for other people. It could be a lack of enthusiasm or even vision for the future that involves contributing to the greater good. When we feel like we're contributing to the greater good, that is a cycle that encourages motivation and energy. It actually generates more motivation and more energy. But if that's missing, you may be missing that ability to generate motivation and energy. There may be a frequent focus on immediate or material rewards rather than long-term fulfillment. And that goes right back to the story I shared with you earlier, where the focus shifted away from that long-term fulfillment, that delayed gratification, to immediate gratification. And frankly, that was not a good pathway. So let's talk about turning that around. What are the benefits if we develop this noble goals competency? Increased life satisfaction. We can align daily actions with deeper values, which can lead to greater fulfillment and happiness. That's a great place to be, isn't it? Resilience. People with strong, noble goals often find it easier to navigate setbacks and challenges as they can focus on the long term. What is the overarching sense of purpose they're trying to reach? It could enhance leadership. And this is a big one as well. And I see it all the time. Leaders who operate from a framework of noble goals inspire trust and respect, fostering a positive organizational culture. That's critical. And it's so important for leaders to have that, because if they don't have that, how in the world are they going to display that to other people? It just doesn't make sense. It's probably not going to happen. What else can happen with a higher noble goal score? Well, social contribution. By pursuing goals that aim to benefit others, people can contribute positively to their communities, their society, and just the people that are close to them in their lives. So there can be some excellent benefits in developing this skill of noble goals. So now let's get into being more strategic about this. What are strategies for developing this skill? Number one, reflect on personal values. I think that's important for us to do regularly. Spend time identifying what truly matters to you, what principles and values guide your life, and what legacy you want to leave. Here's the next one. Set goals aligned with your values. Once you're clear on your values, set specific and measurable goals that reflect these values. Seek inspiration. Learn from the lives of individuals who have made a significant impact in the areas that you care about. I think that's really important. Let me go back over that one again. Learn from the lives of people who have made a significant impact in areas that you care about. That's where we can start to generate passion about things. And passion is a wonderful motivator. And it comes out of an outcome of practicing and pursuing noble goals. Regular reflection. Regularly reflect on your actions and decisions to ensure they are aligned with your noble goals. And community engagement. Engage with community projects or people or groups that reflect your values. This is not only important to reinforce your goals, but it also connects you with like-minded people. And that's really important. I think you probably heard the old story about the pastor that went and visited a man who had lost his wife and he hadn't been in church for a long time. And they were sitting by the fireplace in the living room of this man's house. And they were just kind of quiet and watching the fire. And the pastor got up and he took one of the coals from the fire that was in the middle of the fire, and he set it aside with the tongs that you use to move things around when the fire's going. And then he just sat back down and didn't say a word. And the other man looked at him funny and said, "Why did you do that?" And the pastor said, "Just watch that coal that has been removed from the fire." And over a period of a couple of minutes, the fire in that coal died away and it became cold. That is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about here. If we're not engaged with like-minded people where our fire can keep going and get fed by others, and hopefully these are good people you're meeting with, it can make a huge difference in your life. This is why isolationism is not a good thing. You need to be with like-minded people who have similar values and beliefs that you do. So how do we ensure that we grow in our noble goals area? Number one, regularly assess and realign your daily activities and your long-term plans with your noble goals in mind. So again, they become the compass, right? Maintain a journal to document thoughts, progress, and reflections on your journey toward achieving your noble goals or maintaining your noble goals. I know I've got a lot of people who say to me, "Oh, journaling, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. I'm not doing that stupid stuff." I can tell you right now, I was not a journaler. But I am today to some degree. I don't do it all the time. But there is something very important in the process of taking your thoughts and putting them down on paper with your own hand. And you could do it on a computer or an iPad or something as well. But to me, I actually prefer writing it out. As horrible as my writing is, and feel free to ask my wife or anybody else who knows me, it's pretty awful. But there's something about that process that helps me to really lock in what I'm thinking about and what I'm reflecting on. So I encourage you, even if you don't do it all the time, it is well worth trying it out. You can engage in continuous learning and self-improvement activities, which is, by the way, kind of what this episode is all about, right? It's what this podcast is all about, is continuous learning in these areas. and these can enhance your ability to contribute meaningfully to your chosen causes. So, wrapping this up, noble goals are a fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence that helps to propel a person towards fulfilling and meaningful outcomes and a fulfilling and satisfying and successful life by aligning your daily actions with a purpose that is above and beyond just your personal benefit. People not only achieve greater personal satisfaction, but also make a positive impact on the world around them. So as we look at this, the pursuit of noble goals enriches both the individual's life and the community that they're a part of, which embodies the essence of emotional intelligence. I want to close out with one last thought. This episode and all of my podcast is not intended as medical or mental health advice. It's intended for education and for personal development purposes. If you or someone you know appears to be suffering from any type of mental health challenge, including signs of burnout, it is highly recommended that you seek a medical or mental health professional immediately. And that's not just a disclaimer. That is me speaking from my heart to you who are hearing this and to the people that you love and that you know. Be aware of what is happening in yourself. Be aware of what's happening for other people, and become more emotionally intelligent. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions about this week's episode, or maybe a suggestion for future episodes you'd like us to explore, please contact us through our website at eqfit.org. For more information and inspiration, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at EQFit.